What's up, guys, and welcome back to Bass Fishing Tips. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 4 pieces of gear that I think that every angler needs to just be more effective out on the water. It doesn't matter if you fish from the boat, the bank, or the kayak. These 4 pieces of gear are small, compact, easy to get, super affordable things that can literally make the difference between getting bites and not, getting fish into the boat, the bank, or the kayak, or wherever you guys happen to be fishing, and then helping yourself to get out of a sticky situation if you find yourself in one, and just be more effective, more efficient, and just have a better time while you're out on the water bass fishing. And so without any further ado, let's get right into this video with the first piece of gear, and that is a dye pin. So these are soft plastic dye pins. These pins are designed to modify soft plastic baits, and this to me is one of the most important things that I keep with me everywhere that I go. Like I said, whether I'm in my boat, the bank bag, or my kayak, I have dye pins with me because these things are so wicked. What they do is they actually dye the color of the soft plastic. So say you're throwing a jig or a swim bait or a worm or something like that, and you just want to add a little bit of chartreuse, a little bit of orange, a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, whatever it is to help it do a better job of mimicking what those fish are eating. You can do that with these dye pins, and I literally keep every color dye pin that you could imagine with me. This is chartreuse and orange. These are the 2 that I would suggest first. These are the ones I use the most, but I've got red, blue, green, black, you name it, I've got a dye pin color for it, because again, it's just such an easy way to modify baits on the fly out on the water. Great example, the chartreuse. When I'm flipping and pitching, if I'm throwing something like a green pumpkin bait, I'll take and I'll dye just the tips of the tails with that chartreuse because it makes it look like a bluegill swimming around in the water a heck of a lot more. And what's crazy is I have seen instances where when I add chartreuse and somebody else in the boat doesn't, I'm catching 3, even 4 fish to their 1 just because of that little bit of chartreuse. It's just that little something extra, that little bit more flash, a little bit more, contrast in the water that helps those fish to see it, that gets those bass to eat it where the other person doesn't get a bite. So the pins are super important. And then the orange, my other favorite, the one I think you need, like I said, chartreuse and orange are the first 2 I would buy. The orange is great for when we're in the spring and winter times when you've got crawdads. It's got a bunch of orange on them. I'll add this to the tips of claws on my craws, on my jigs, or if I'm just fishing something by itself. It's just a great way to modify baits. Now, I love the pins over the jars of dye for a couple reasons. Number 1, just cleanliness. These things aren't going to blow up. So if you've got a jar of dye in your bank bag or in your kayak or even in your boat, that thing pops or you drop it, you're gonna have a mess in your boat that you literally will not be able to clean up. Even with those solvents, a lot of the times it doesn't come out, especially if you get it on the carpet, on you, or in your bank bag. You might as well just throw it away and start over. The pins don't do that. These pins, as long as these caps are on these pins good, you're not gonna have a mess on your hand. And even if that cap comes off, there isn't a bunch of stuff leaking out of this pin. All of that is just right there. You guys can see just a little bit on my finger, but that is all that's able to actually get out of that pin. And so it's just a lot cleaner. It's one of those things you don't have to worry about it busting. And then number 2, the precision in which I can modify my baits. I can put this dye exactly where I want it. With that jar, a lot of times you're like guessing, trying to get it in there just right, getting just enough chartreuse on there, just enough orange on there to do what you want. But with these, I can be super precise. I can add orange just to the tips of the claws. I can paint the whole claw. I can paint parts of the body and just be super specific with the pins. And so that's why I love dye pins. Dye pins are one of my favorite tools for bass fishing that I think so many people overlook or don't even have in their boat, their bank bag, or their kayak, and it's something that everybody's missing because it helps you to get more bites. This helps you to get more bites. It's a small modifier. It's something you literally, without having to re-rig everything, you can take this pin out, make a few marks on your bait, and take that bait and turn it into something that it wasn't before and get more bites on it. So gotta get yourself some dye pins. The next piece of gear is another piece of gear that I think people just overlook. And I think it's something that people don't even think about when they comes to their baits and especially their hooks, and that is a hook sharpener. This is just a good old-fashioned whetstone. That's all this is. And so this is what I use to sharpen my hooks. It's just a little bitty file. And I can't tell you how many times, whether it be on crankbaits or single hook baits like jigs or whatever it is, you roll the point on that hook and you can take this little file that little rolled point right down, and that hook goes from a hook that would probably lose you a fish, not get you a good hookup, to a hook that's going to work perfectly fine. And one great example of this is I love to go hike through the woods, fish creeks, fish rivers, just go out into the middle middle of nowhere without anything other than what's in my bag and one rod and one reel. And so when you get out there, a lot of times we're not carrying very much gear. So if you roll the hook point on a bait, if you don't got an extra one with you, you've essentially got a useless bait. It's going to be a bait that, yeah, you can hook fish, but you're not going to hook them as well as you could. Or if you have this little bitty file, you just file that hook right down, and that hook's going to be sharp. It's going to be ready to use. And it's one of those things that you can like extend the life of some baits and some hooks, especially when it comes to a jig. Like, you can't replace the hook on a jig. And so if you've only got one or two of these left, maybe it's a special jig, maybe you just don't got the money at the time to go buy more jigs, you're able to file that hook point down using that little file and keep that hook sharp on that jig and keep it ready to go. Another thing that this is great for, and I've used it to modify other baits, is like, I was fishing a Chapo one time, and I knocked the Chapo off of a boat dock, and it got like a little burr on it where it just hit something and kind of cut into it. And that burr was making my Chapo run funny. Literally took this file, filed that little burr down, my Chapo started running fine again. And so this is a multiple use tool. Not only can it sharpen hooks, but it can help you to just do little things, get rid of little, like, you know, imperfections and things on baits, different hard baits and different things like that, and help you just to get more fish into the boat, the bank, or the kayak. I mean, if you're fighting fish and your hooks aren't sharp, you're not going to get those fish into the boat, the bank, or the kayak. Where if you have this little stone, just a quick little on that little you know, hook or whatever it is, and you're going to have a sharp hook again that you don't have to worry about losing fish on. But yeah, just a little bitty file or a little bitty whetstone, a little hook sharpener. Again, super compact, super small. Literally hold these two things in one hand, and these two things alone are going to help you, number one, to get more bites, and then to get those bites into the boat, the bank, or the kayak. Now, the third piece of gear and the fourth piece of gear are getting yourself out of hairy situations. And I think that this one is definitely one that everybody needs and is one of my favorite things to have, especially for bank anglers, but for any angler, and that is a lure knocker. So this is a little lure knocker. These are homemade ones. There's a guy that I know that makes these things. You can buy different versions. There's versions that are available online, but that little bad boy right there has saved me so many different baits, from hard body treble hook baits to jigs to everything else in between. That little lure knocker right there, what it does, so essentially you put line in this one end and line in this other, you just wrap it onto your line and you throw it down, and when that hits that lure, it's going to hit that lure. And a lot of the times with a crankbait, it's kind of just wedged, and so when you hit the front of that lure, it's going to unwedge that crankbait, and that crankbait's going to float up and it's going to come floating to the top, and you're going to be able to get your bait back. Same with a jig, same with a swim bait. The principle is there. This thing just helps you to get your lures back. It's a lure saver or a lure knocker, and like I said, there's so many different versions of it, but just a little bitty piece of lead on a wire with a couple wraps on the end can literally save you thousands of dollars throughout the year, especially if we're fishing really expensive lures. Say it's something like my old $150 glide bait here. This is not something that I want to lose, and if it gets hung up on a tree in 15 foot of water, there's not much I can do. But that little lure knocker right there can knock that bait loose, get that bait undone, and get it back into the boat, get it back into your hands, and keep you from losing $100, $10, $15. And if you do that 100 times throughout the year, literally this little, I think I pay $1.25 for these. This little $1.25 investment can save you thousands upon thousands of dollars throughout the year, and it's something that I think every angler needs in their boat, their bank bag, or their kayak. A little bitty lure knocker. Now the last one is one that, again, a piece of gear I keep with me everywhere that I go, and this is for when the absolute worst happens. I myself am lucky enough to have never been hooked by somebody else. I was hooked by a flying hook when I was deep sea fishing. It went through both of these fingers and pinned them together. And then I hooked myself in the bottom of the foot with a 10XD hook. It was a number 2 size treble. I stepped down on it because I was barefooted in my boat, because I like to fish barefoot. I know it's dumb, but it's something that I like to do, and I'm going to keep on doing it. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. And so those are just 2 times that I've had hooks in me. But I've been in the boat with plenty of people who have got hooked, and hooked really, really bad. And one of the things that everybody tends to do when they get hooked, especially the first time, is, oh my God, I've got to go to the hospital. And so this one investment right here will help you to really save some money. It'll avoid that that $10,000 ER bill that you probably didn't need to go to unless you were like hooked somewhere vital, like in the eye or somewhere dangerous that you're not going to be able to get it out. But stuff like in your hands, in your feet, different parts of your body, these bad boys right here can save your day, and that is a pair of wire snips. Good, big wire snips. For the most part, depending on the hook, I've seen big hooks that you can't really cut with these things, but for the most part, all the hooks that we're gonna be using in bass fishing, these little wire snips can clip the ends off of them. And a lot of the times with a hook, you know, if it gets drove into your hand, if you can tough it out enough and you can get that hook point pushed back out of your skin, and or it went completely through and that hook point come out of your skin, all you have to do is clip that hook right below that barb, and you're going to be able to pull that hook out of your hand, save yourself a trip to the ER, and then be able to get out there and keep on fishing. Just make sure you get yourself a tetanus shot on the back end of that, because I don't want you to die from tetanus. Or get lockjaw or whatever happens with tetanus. I just know it's not good and we don't want it. But wire snips, you can literally go pick these up at any hardware store. They're super cheap, they're super affordable. Like I said, I keep a pair in the kayak, I keep a pair in the boat, I keep a pair in my bank bag, I keep a pair in my truck just to have them just in case I need to cut a hook out and or cut wire. But just a simple pair of wire snips can save you, again, thousands upon thousands of dollars in the long run, and just save your day out on the water and help you to get a hook out of yourself. And this is one thing that I have done or have seen, is somebody getting a hook in themselves while they're by themselves. And I've seen it where the fish is still attached to the hook, it's thrashing around, and this is a great way just to get the fish away from you. You know, if you've got a pair of wire snips in your boat or your kayak or wherever you're at, and you've got a fish thrashing around and it's attached to one hook, you're attached to the other hook, you're trying to get away from it, you can simply take these wire snips, get on the split ring and cut that fish away. And whether that fish goes back in the water or it lands in your boat or wherever it's at, it doesn't really matter, because eventually that hook will rust out of that fish's face. Your health and your well-being is a lot more important than that fish. And so just getting that fish away from you, getting that thrashing dangerous thing away from you, can help you to then address yourself, get the hook out of yourself, and then if the fish is still there, address the fish and get the hook out of the fish. Now you're gonna ruin a bait or ruin hooks and split rings, but you can replace hooks and split rings. You can't really replace a giant hole in your hand from a hook or some dangerous situation where you've got a fish thrashing around, you're trying to get away from it, it's trying to get away from you. Literally, a $4 pair of wire snips can make all the difference in the world. So, wire snips, lure knocker, dye pins, and a file. Literally 4 objects that I can carry in one hand that could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars, or just get you way more bites out on the water, or just save your day and save your favorite lure. Super easy. If you guys enjoyed this video, click this video, it's popping up right here.